So I put up a post this morning about shy, about how we can find ourselves sometimes saying when our child doesn't seem to say hello or to acknowledge someone that it's because he or they are a bit shy. And we often do that out of our own awkwardness, because we want to make the other adults or maybe the other children feel a bit more comfortable. So I thought, rather than try and reply to all the amazing insights and comments, I would jump on and do a live. So why did I even put the post up? Well, it's because it's something that I see happening a lot. Now that I'm out and about with my granddaughter who's just under 2, I meet a lot of grandparents and parents and carers. And there's often this moment where child stands in front of adult, adult says hello, and child just looks at adult. This is a common occurrence in my life now, and it's really interesting to observe what that feels like inside of me. So if my granddaughter, if Olivia is meeting somebody, in fact it happened yesterday, we were in a little cafe and she went and stood by a grandparent, it was, who was giving her grandchild some lunch, and all Olivia wanted to do was just watch. She just wanted to watch. She hadn't seen this before. She was finding it fascinating. But the adult was a bit uncomfortable because the child wasn't speaking. So she was trying to get Olivia to do something or say something, and all the child wanted to do, she wasn't feeling shy, she wasn't feeling anything, she was just curious. So what might be happening with and for your children and with and for yourselves? Well, a couple of scenarios were kindly shared. Somebody asked about with their child that her friends run up to meet her and greet her, and sometimes her child doesn't say anything. So the other children are saying, oh, hi, or whatever they're saying, and their child just says nothing. And of course, what happens inside of us is we then feel a bit awkward and we start to be understandably, compassionately worried about the other children. And, my child is being a bit rude or a bit standoffish, and it can get us into a bit of state of tension and stress. So, very important for us, if we know that happens if you know that happens in you, to just take a few breaths in that moment, because we are assuming that the other children are experiencing this as rudeness, as rejection, as who knows what. And we're also feeling a bit uncomfortable and worried for our child. So it puts us into a bit of a state of stress, rather than just calm myself down and try and leave my assumptions to one side, and actually the other children might not care. Or if I'm very, very calm, they might just do their own thing and then they will just run off together and play. So it's the stuff that's got loaded onto us so often about, if my child isn't doing that, then they are being this instead. But what so often happens inside the child at this moment, for many, many, many different reasons, is the other children coming up to them just makes them go a little bit. So they experience a little moment of anxiety. And when our system, so when the child's system feels a little bit anxious, two things happen. Think about yourselves. Always run this stuff through yourselves. When you have a moment in the presence of other people where you feel a bit anxious, usually we either go into talking very too much, oh hello, blah, 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 over befriending, or we find it hard to speak. So that's all that's happening inside this little child at this moment, is they just finding it hard to speak. That's okay. So the more that as the adults we can just calm ourselves and hold a belief that, you know, when your child feels more comfortable, they'll either smile or they'll just relax a little bit, and the children will sort themselves out. So that was one amazing scenario that was kindly shared. Another one was a parent saying that I believe it was the mother. So she and her partner both are, as she would describe them, a bit shy, and so she's concerned about, you know, in that moment, if I'm not going to explain to other people that actually my child is a bit shy, well, what am I going to say? So what I've started saying for my granddaughter, if I feel that I need to say anything at all, because again, there's that kind of loaded pressure on us, isn't there, that I must offer an explanation for my child not speaking. Well, I know society kind of demands that of us, but maybe we can be a bit radical and not buy into that. I don't know. If that feels comfortable for you, I'm trying to move more into that space now of not explaining away what my granddaughter is or isn't doing, because I'm only guessing. And yeah, maybe the other adults just need to get comfortable with the fact that I'm not going to explain away her behaviour in any way. But if you do feel the need to, completely understand that. So what I've been saying is to the adult or the children is, oh, she just needs a moment just to be with you, or she just needs a moment just to get to know you a little bit, or feel relaxed with you. So I keep it very simple, and these are all truthful things that I'm saying. That is the reality of what's going on. A child, it might be even somebody that they've met loads and loads of time. It might be an uncle or a grandparent or a teacher, who knows? You know, it could be anybody. But what you're seeing happening in the child of any age is in that moment, they've just gone into a state of, so they don't feel able to speak. It doesn't mean they're not going to be able to, but right at this moment, their system is just shut down a bit. So focus on yourself, to be very present with the child, be very grounded yourself, and then they might just come out of it. A third thing to also be curious about is if for your child this is feeling difficult. So if they're old enough to say, oh, I wish I could say hello to people, or you know, you sense that's a little conversation you can just be curious about with them of, I was wondering how that feels for you when you meet your friends, and you know, it feels like it's hard for you to say hello to them, which is fine, but I'm just wondering how that is for you. And you know, that might create a little conversation where the child says, yeah, I wish I could say hello, or it feels a bit yucky, or whatever it is. So if that's the case, then you could say, how about if we practice it a little bit together? Because I sometimes feel like that when I go somewhere or I meet somebody, I get a kind of tight, uncomfortable feeling inside me, and I find it hard to get the words out. So maybe we could just pretend that we're somewhere and we could just, you know, play it out together. So wonderful opportunity, have some fun with it and role play it. I mean, you could use two cuddly animals if you want to, but role playing for a child is a great thing to do, and you could turn it into a game. You know, you're at the cafe and you meet somebody, or let them create the scenario maybe. And again, with older ones, still the same thing. They may be less interested or more interested, but walking them through it and maybe introducing, oh, you know, at that point, that's where I quite often I meet somebody and I try and remind myself just to take a little breath because I am feeling a bit stressed and a bit anxious. So that's okay. So we kind of normalize that when we do meet people. often, yeah, we feel a bit stressed, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that necessarily I'm shy, you're shy, like if a child wants to say it's because I'm shy, then I would just go with that, but I wouldn't kind of pitch my tent in that, oh, my child is shy, because that can then become an additional way that they go through life thinking, oh, I'm shy, I'm shy, I'm shy. And that isn't going to be very helpful for them necessarily, because if they do have to go out into the world and they have to interact with other people, every time they do that, it's going to create quite a lot of anxiety for them. So I hope that is useful to you, because that's all that matters at the end of the day, is that I'm of use and a resource for you. So it's about you as the adult just calming yourself. It may very well be that you are someone who actually finds meeting people and greeting people a bit anxiety provoking, and your child has accidentally, you didn't mean this to happen, picked up on it. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel like you might like to try out, and most importantly, how it all goes.